Oh, my mic was muted. Yeah, that was weird. If you guys can't hear me at any time, that's because StreamYard is muting my mic for some reason. Probably nothing, but, let me know if you can't hear me. If you're here, chime in the comments. Homie, welcome to our live Homie Hangout, where you ask the questions. We have a conversation and chat about the episode we had earlier today. That episode was called Garfield John's Hidden Wish. And before we get into it, we're really gonna revisit that episode real quick. Right now, I just see one person in the chat. We're gonna wait and see if some more people show up, because I don't want to play it for no offense. You matter, but I'm not gonna play it for just one person. I want to play it for a good handful of people before we actually get talking about it. All right. So let's see. Let's wait and see if somebody else gets in here. Until then, homie, we appreciate you, and we do all of this for you. And if you're willing, we have a service called giveacookie.net where you can support the show, because this show runs on cookies, and so does Jiggy. And we need your support.
Donate a cookie, lend hand. Giveacookie.net is where you should spend. Keep a commotion rolling it. On you we depend. Yo, homie, give a cookie. Donate a cookie, lend hand. Giveacookie.net is where you should spend. Keep a commotion rolling it. On you we depend. Yo, homie, give a cookie.
So if you are capable, it would be awesome if you could jump in and give us a little support. Hey, Andrew. Hiya, Andrew. How you doing? Hello, Kate and Jiggy. This is my first live chat here. Whoa! Welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here, Andrew. Yeah, we're going to have these live after shows after the main episode pretty much from now on. And this episode kind of blew my mind because as of right now, it's already had over 100 views and 4 subscribers. Like, isn't that crazy, Andrew? 4 subscribers already. And it hasn't even been more than 6 hours. And, the episode was just uploaded also to Facebook. So if you're over there, you probably haven't gotten the episode yet. Hiya, homies coming in. I see that we got a couple more people coming in here. If you're here, drop in the chat. Let me know. We're going to watch the episode from earlier, and then we're going to talk about it. We're going to converse, have a conversation. That episode was called Garfield John's Hidden Wish. And I would like you to jump in the chat at any time and share your takes, hot takes, cold takes, just any opinion you've got on John Arbuckle and Garfield and Friends. And let us know if you think Garfield is a bit more about John Arbuckle than we gave him credit for when we were busy growing up. Start blowing up that comment section. All right, so we will return to the comment section when the comment section fills up with more viewers. Andrew's still saying, that's awesome. Thank you so much, man. It's incredible. It's incredible to see the YouTube recommendation system in work. And shooting out our content to more people and getting people on board, because we put a lot of work into this show. And Jiggy and I, we take notes, we sit down and we watch all of the episodes that we can of the series that we're going to talk about. And we go through our notes and we find key details that, it's just so easy to miss when you're distracted by the real world. Am I right, Jiggy? Jiggy. Oh boy. Yeah, he was just saying that he's always distracted. But you know how pigs are, their attention spans are kind of limited. No offense, Jiggy. My attention span is, it struggles too. So real quick, I'm actually gonna pull up while we're waiting for some more people to join up with us. I'm actually gonna pull up the episode. Uh, Thanks for being here with us at the mall today. It's a fun space to be at. But a couple stores I like visiting. I'm actually streaming out in front of the 2 stores that I visit the most. Main one being Video Rewind with my good friend Moose at the counter. He's so awesome. Gives me great deals on complete series sets. It's like I got such a great collection from the store. You have no idea. All right, let's see the episode. Where was the episode? This is what happens when you rename folders. It's like I just had it. Oh, okay, here we go. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute the mall audio here. I'm gonna focus in on the audio from the file. Hang on a second. Homie, what if Garfield's series was actually kinda more about John Arbuckle than it was about Garfield? Let's rewind, relive, and reflect with the world of Garfield and friends right after this killer track.
Let's go back in time, we can just hit rewind. What a terrific notion, it's cartoon commotion.
Homie, you're hanging out in the right place for 80s and 90s cartoon nostalgia insights. I'm Cade, your favorite cartoon weirdo, and as usual, I'm joined by my banjo-playing little buddy and all-around super talented co-host, my pet pig, Jiggy. Rewind with us back to the 80s as we zone in on Garfield's meal ticket and two-legged pal, John Arbuckle. Why John? Well, sometimes you might have seen John as a major bummer of an obstacle for Garfield. Even maybe as a background character to Garfield's life. But homie, that's just not true. We're flipping the script on that because there were times where Garfield and friends put the spotlight on John. And through their relationship, we get to see the hidden strengths and desires of his character. Of course, Garfield is still about Garfield the cat, but his troubles are so not human, because he's a cat. His personality is about as layered as he is fat, but his troubles are very one-dimensional. That's why I think we can relate more with John as we grow up. All kids know what it feels like to be hungry, and they can be super lazy, and they want to get what they want when they want it. The younger you are, the easier it is to feel a kindred spirit with Garfield. John is an awkward adult, just trying to make a living and provide for his pets. And Garfield makes that no easy task. Yet John loves him anyway. Pause for a sec. Okay, so we're gonna have a bonus episode on the strength of John's love for Garfield, but right now, we're talking about how we should see John as a character. So just keep it rolling, okay? Growing up, we gather more adult responsibility, much like John. He cares and provides for his pets, like they're his own children, and they basically are. That is so right, Jig! Homies have also told me that he's the best cat dad. That matters for sure, but let's go deeper into John's personality and what he represents for us. Besides being super ultra awkward in social situations, John also is unlucky in love and very passionate about organizing his sock drawer. What a guy! Embrace the quirks and then look beyond them. What else is John? For sure, Jiggy! I was about to mention John's quirkiness. John also has these random gnarly moments of insane outbursts that seem sort of abnormal for even him. It's sort of like he tries to come off as an average, mild-mannered dude that's got it all together. But this is a guy who once used mayonnaise in a recipe instead of whipped cream because they're both white. John's vibe is a child at heart, desperately trying to fit in with the world around him. It's clear that he tries to keep a lot of that on the down low, held deep inside himself where other people don't see it all that often. One notable moment like this is in the episode Boxo Fun. Great episode, really liked that one. John sent both Garfield and Odie outside to play when he struggled to understand their imaginary adventures with his empty cardboard box. He took it to another room and, with enough curiosity pent up inside of him, he put it up over his head like a helmet and started to pretend that he was a knight of the round table, showing us that he's also very imaginative. John has a very authentic childlike nature that's uniquely him. He doesn't always let that part out in the world around him. Garfield comments on this side of John because he sees it more often than anyone. He comments on John's life as a narrative perspective of him. Really, he's a dude who tries to look and act like he's got his whole life together, but on the inside, he's totally wigging out, man. Like his reaction to the grocery bill in the episode Green Thumbs Down. He's seriously freaked out. He shoved the money in the delivery boy's mouth. It was hysterical. 5 stars. We should totally do a top 5 hysterical John moments or something like that, huh, Jiggy? Oh, 11-7? I mean, I'm sure there's enough moments out there, Jig, but I don't think our homies had that kind of time. Okay, so like I was saying, John pays the bills, John drives the car, John struggles with his career. He's the driving motivation behind most of the stories in Garfield's world, because he's our child at heart adult in this situation. That can be crazy relatable in whatever stage of life we find ourselves in. Let's spin that again, homie. Not only is John the driving motivation of most everything going on in Garfield's world, he also wishes he could be more like Garfield. No, Jiggy, I don't mean that he wants to be a cat. Though there was an episode where that sort of happened. It was a dream sequence. Yeah, it was freaky weird, but still funny, and it was full of insightful bits on the characters, so let's just unpack that. John secretly wishes to be more like Garfield, as in his personality. Carefree, unrestricted, and unrestrained by the shackles of normal responsibility. In a way, Garfield sort of completes him. Garfield can go about playing freely, imagining he is whatever he wishes he could be. He could be a real troublemaker too. And then John will turn around and forgive Garfield's antics and mischief in a heartbeat. Sure, he's mad at first, but John's love for his cat defies all of this reasonable anger. Okay, pause again here for a second. Just a reminder, we have a bonus episode on this. It's going to be called For the Love of Garfield, showing the strength of John's character. Okay, no more interruptions. I just wanted you to know that, homie. Alrighty, now play it. John's bumpy ride in life is like an opposite day scenario in connection to Garfield's scene. But still, Garfield needs John in order to keep on cruising. Garfield could also totally be like a representation of John's zipped up hidden wish of a childlike spirit that's jammed on hold. Of course, I don't mean that's all Garfield is. As I mentioned earlier, this doesn't take away from Garfield's character at all. But it does mean something more for us that I think we all overlook now and then. John's hidden wish is to live without the mask of adulthood that everyone expects him to wear. Man. Now, isn't that relatable? Haven't you ever felt that people assume you should be a certain way as an adult? You know, let go of your creativity, personality, everything that makes you interesting so that you fit in with the world around you? John was desperately trying to keep those kid-at-heart impulses deep down inside of him, while holding his life together. Contrasting that with the super uber chill Garfield. Major opposites, but they're kinda like two sides of a killer cassette, each jamming in sync with the other's tune. Totally in need of each other. The most radical part, homie, is how we can see that middle ground. The bridge that links their jam to ours. That connection with us right there is the magic key.
If you enjoyed the show, the only way it grows is if you share it with a homie, so they can know. Come join the commotion, cartoon commotion. Come join the commotion, yeah, cartoon commotion.
Cookie shoutouts! Eric Grant, Carrie Cube, John Ellis, Legion of Comics, Marcia Sullivan, Sherry Edgett, Kate Utterback, and of course, ToyStalker.com. And just so you know, we are brought to you by the fine folks of the Cereal Box Network. CerealBoxNetwork.com. Lay us out, Jiggy. And a very special thank you to John Ellis for once again contributing to giveacookie.net. And if you're interested in doing that, that'll help us keep our show on the web for everyone to have access to at all times. We keep producing this content. We're trying to bring major Mondo quality to each episode and give you something that you can take away and really, really enjoy and get something out, something get something out of it that you wouldn't have seen if we hadn't shown you. If you want to do that, that's over at giveacookie.net.
Donate a cookie, lend hand. Giveacookie.net is where you should spend. Keep a commotion rolling it. On you we depend. Yo, homie, give a cookie.
So like I said earlier, I really want to hear your takes, your hot takes, cold takes, any takes you have on Jon Arbuckle. Do you think that Garfield is a bit more about Jon Arbuckle than we gave him credit for when we were too busy growing up? Start blowing up that comment section. Let's talk about this. I know that, I personally used to look at Jon like he was a bossy dude that just got in Garfield's way because, I wanted Garfield to be able to do whatever he wanted. And Jon always seemed to ruin the fun. But if you really think about it, Jon often had to be the adult of their lives even when he really didn't want to be that. I mean, That's right, Jiggy. Yes, he totally gave of himself for his pets. It was, till he was nearly broken all the time. And it was in a way that you could see that Jon wasn't capable of living with his childlike spirit, causing him to be a super awkward individual in most any social interactions, and definitely around women. Last time on our live after show, Cartoon Commotion Homie Hangout, someone asked me if Orson's Farm, more commonly known as U.S. Acres, ever had a crossover with Garfield and Friends, the Garfield and Friends short. And I said that I didn't think so. But after a little digging, I discovered Garfield had a crossover on their segment and it was on the Orson's Farm segment, more commonly known as U.S. Acres, as I said. Episode 11 of season 3, and it was called Guess That Guest. Garfield was the mystery guest. The strange thing is that their worlds didn't really blend very well. Garfield, he still didn't communicate with actual talking, and I appreciated that. It was all just in his mind. And the barnyard animals still spoke and walked upright like they were people. And there was even a phone call to the farm from Jon Arbuckle to try and guess the guest. And when Jon calls in, Garfield's like, no chance. He's not going to win. He's not going to be able to figure it out. And sure enough, Jon couldn't figure it out. It's weird how sometimes he's just not all that bright. Garfield's world it doesn't have humanoid animals. I mean they can sometimes walk upright, but they usually go back on all fours more than standing upright. So there you have it, dude. Season 3, episode 11, Guess That Guest. I think it was actually Matthew Carter who said that in our last Homie Hangout. Earlier today, he also recommended to me that I look into the episode where Jon becomes a radio DJ. I really love those micro stories within Garfield's world that take characters and do strange things with them like that. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for the recommendation, Matthew Carter. I appreciate that. That looks interesting. And, and I remember it, but I really want to revisit that in detail. Oh, we got another comment. Andrew! He's back. I do remember a few minor appearances. Yeah. Are we talking about in the world of Orson's Farm, Andrew? Now, in our group, our Facebook group, homies have been posting, and if you're interested in being in that group and you're not in there, this might be the first time you're hearing about it. That's totally free, and that group is called Cartoon... First day with my new tongue, as Johnny would say. Cartoon Commotion Homies. And we're also streaming live over there right now, so if you're in the group, hop on in the chat. We miss you guys. Come on in, chat. This is our Homie Hangout. This is what we're here for. Oh, Andrew says that he says vaguely, if I'm remembering right. Yeah, the episode in question was Guess That Guest, and it's Season 3, Episode 11. So if you want to find that for yourself and rewatch it, it's on there. Oh! Oh, man. I am going to have the hardest time pronouncing your name, dude, but I'm so glad that you're here. It says, "Hi, I'm new here. I just subbed. LOL. I just finished the vid you just uploaded. I love Garfield content." Well, thank you for subscribing. We do cover more than just Garfield here, but Garfield is a big part of what we're doing, and there will be another bonus episode on Garfield, so stay tuned because Garfield will make a reappearance. I'm so glad you could join us. Welcome to the Commotion crew. You are a newfound homie of Cartoon Commotion, and we appreciate all our members, and we have hangouts like this after every big episode I do. So every main episode is going to have one of these live hangouts. If you want to jump in and add your 2 cents, maybe you got some perspective that we don't. We love sharing perspective and learning together about these radical cartoons of the 80s and 90s. Thanks for being here. Andrew says, "The more Garfield fans, the better." Right on, Andrew. Totally. And I'm going to try and pronounce your name. Kayak. Oh, like kayak? Is that kind of how it's pronounced? I'm terrible with names. You'll have to forgive me. I'm so sorry. Exploring with Nug just commented, "I have a Jim Davis autograph." Dude, that is so excellent. Jim Davis he's awesome. I love Garfield. So awesome. More Garfield fans, the merrier, as Andrew would say. The more Garfield fans, the better. John Ellis, woo, finally made it. Dude, John, I was just about to talk about some of the things you've been posting in our Facebook group, Cartoon Commotion Homies. All right, so check this out. In our group, we share 80s and 90s TV cartoon memories, and John Ellis has been sharing a ton of Totally Boss memories lately. He had the 411 on Garfield on the Town, the original comic strip arc. Okay, so this is in comparison to Garfield on the Town, the special. This is excellent. He explained that the original strip arc was all about Yuletide, Christmas, more radical than I could have possibly. I gotta back up here. I totally lost my train of thought. So I was digging the notion that the whole special might have been way more radical if it also featured Christmas, the TV special. Maybe it could have been a bit more magical of a revelation with Garfield's mom. You know, a magical realization that Garfield's mom, is still alive. It's not that the special did it poorly, but it could have done this. Am I wrong, John? I mean, does that in retrospect make Garfield on the Town kind of a Christmas special? Oh, yeah, right. No, Jiggy, I understand. Technically, it wouldn't actually be the Garfield on the Town, the special was Christmas special. It would be the comic strips. John, feel free to chime in on that at any time, John Ellis. Maybe not the cartoon, but totally in the comic strips. Always curious what you've got to add to the conversation. Thank you for being here, man. I know that my homie Nick knows a thing or two about Garfield on the Town. That was one of his favorite Garfield specials. We've been talking to each other for like days, like almost a month. We've been just chatting about Garfield and classic 80s and 90s cartoons, and he's been giving me recommendations and movie recommendations. It's just been awesome. And guys, my DMs are always open if you want to chat, and you can always email us over at cartooncommotion.com. If you go over there, we're going to have like an email address readily available. If you can't find it over there for whatever reason, it's also going to be listed around this video somewhere. So yeah, Nick knows a thing or two about that, and I would love to hear his thoughts on this, about it being more Christmas focused. I'm also open to questions and conversation on anything Garfield and Friends. Right now, we are focusing on John and the strength of his character, which Kayak mentioned earlier. Oh, John did have something to say. Oh, wait. We're going to back it up. Here. Andrew said that's a cool autograph to have, Kayak, and that's actually Andrew. That was actually exploring with Nug. Although if Kayak has if he actually has the autograph, that would also be equally epic. Kayak says, "LOL, it's Kai, short for my first name, and the OC short for my last name. Would you be offended if I just always referred to you as Kayak? Because I think it's cool." Andrew said, "Oh, excuse me, exploring with Nug." Yep, that is correct. He's the one that got the interview. He or she, I'm not going to assume. Pretty sure that Nug is the dude, but you know. John Ellis says, "It could have been." Okay, so yeah, about like Garfield on the Town being more like a Christmas special. It could have been. Okay. Yeah, I think it could have been more powerful too, in my opinion. Matthew Carter, yes! I was just talking about you, Matthew. Whoa, we got a comment here that's going to block my face. And Jiggy, you are surrounded by comment. That's okay. It's a short-lived conversation. We're just going to read through it real quick. Okay, buddy? All right. Hey, Cartoon Commotion, I'm glad to be here. I told you of Pac-Man the Animated Series, the Wizard of Oz Animated Series, Stargate Infinity, and Alienators Evolution Continues, along with the Pirates of Darkwater. Lastly, maybe you'll review the Garfield and Friends episode where John gets a job as a radio DJ. It'd be great. Matthew Carter, I totally was just talking about you, man. I had mentioned that we were gonna go over that episode. We were gonna go back and rewatch the episode where John becomes a DJ because you recommended it. John Ellis says, "John, I relate to all too well as an adult." And he added, "We all, I think, have times we feel overwhelmed just by life, like he does." Please do. Kayak says, "Please do. Kayak is funnier. I love that." Right on, dude. You stick around here, I will always refer to you as Kayak because it's awesome. Andrew said, "That's a lot of great cartoons he listed." That was Matthew Carter. Yes, Andrew. Correctamundo. Matthew recommended so many great cartoons. It's some that I actually hadn't even heard of. Like, I knew about Pac-Man, I knew about Pirates of Darkwater, but I never heard of Stargate Infinity or Alienators Evolution Continued. Like, some of these slip by me like crazy. Short note, though, if anything didn't take place in the 80s and 90s, we're just not going to talk about it here on Cartoon Commotion. No offense. I'm sure they're great cartoons, but that's what we talk about here on Cartoon Commotion. Anything cartoon from the 80s and 90s that we can go deeper in depth on, and it's mainly TV cartoons that are for all ages. Andrew also added, "I totally think we've all been John at various points in our life, in a manner of speaking anyway." Yeah, I mean, it's totally... John has a lot of relatable quirks. Very many relatable quirks, and we covered a lot in this episode of Cartoon Commotion. If you guys weren't here at the start, we did replay the episode, but the episode is available on YouTube and now Facebook. I'm gonna try to link it in the chat. I don't know if that'll work because we're live right now, but let's see. I gotta go to studio and grab the video. John's Hidden Wish. Garfield, John's Hidden Wish. All right, here we go. I'm gonna link that on every place we're going live right now. So if you guys haven't seen the video, that link will take you to the actual video. And if you want to rather just like watch it here in the live, we could play it again towards the end. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about the episode, but I kind of like keeping that right up at the front. Matthew Carter says, "Thanks. Have you watched any of the Star Wars cartoons like Star Wars Droids or Ewoks?" Revisiting them, I need to really dig. You know, I'm going to add that to my list of cartoons I want to really dig into. I've got like a short list that's just like for me, not necessarily for the episodes that I have planned. So this is more like a reference for me to come back to. Let's see, that was Star Wars Droids. I love the theme song of Star Wars Droids. When was the last time, have you heard the Star Wars Droids theme song like in a long time? Stepping softly in a danger zone. No weapon in my hand. Star Wars droids and Ewoks. I'm just gonna make a little note here for me to rewatch those again, because some of these I'm just like I want to watch and then come back to when I'm like fully ready. I take notes on everything I watch. We both Jiggy and I, and Jiggy is here with me today. Jiggy and I, we take notes on everything we watch, don't we, buddy? Yeah, he had some specific notes in our last episode. And in this episode, he has a lot to say in almost every episode. He jumps in with some very interesting commentary. This episode, we were talking about how John he's kind of secretly wishes to be Garfield, and then he mentioned how it would be kind of creepy being like wishing that you are an actual cat, and I was like, well, that's not quite what we meant. And he knew that already, but I think he wanted to push my buttons, didn't you, buddy? All right, so let's continue. John Ellis also said, in a way, John is a bit too hard on himself. He owns his own home and car. He can support 2 high-maintenance pets. Like, let's emphasize that for a second. High-maintenance pets. He's a syndicated cartoonist. All in all, he's doing okay. Yeah, he is doing well. I think, because Jim Davis made John Arbuckle as sort of a mere reflection of himself, so it's sort of like, I guess, highlighting those insecurities and that awkwardness more so than, just, more so than focusing, just making a character that's sorry for himself or anything. He wanted to give a character that felt real and authentic, and that was him. So, in the episode of Cartoon Emotion today, Garfield, John's Hidden Wish, I paused a couple times to let you know that we're developing a bonus episode on Garfield called For the Love of Garfield. And Kayak, if you're here, you love Garfield content, stay tuned. That's not going to come out for a little while, but I have recorded it. I am planning to edit it as soon as possible, and you will have more Garfield content on this channel. There's also a previous episode we've done called Garfield Got Dramatic, talking about the value of the drama in Garfield's early specials. So if you haven't caught those are going to be there. But For the Love of Garfield is basically a continuation of John's Hidden Wish, but the focus is more, it's going to be more on how John loves his cat and how that affects both his life and ours by watching the series. Just a reminder, homie, anyone that's joining us now, this is a live homie hangout where you ask the questions and we have a conversation. We chat about the episode that we had earlier today, and that episode was called Garfield, John's Hidden Wish. We are chatting about the 1988 series, Garfield and Friends. A key part of that special, that episode that we're going to do For the Love of Garfield is going to focus on the special Garfield Gets a Life. Yes, Garfield Gets a Life. The one with the infamous dance scene. But, it was really great, honestly. John's got the moves. All right? He's got bodacious moves. I love the special, personally. I love that it focused more on John working to boost his reputation in the world. Got to boost that rep. And I loved how it showed more of John and Garfield's relationship, the love between them. Like, it's kind of the whole highlight of the episode that we're going to be talking about, and how alike that they really are. It was funny and enlightening. So I want to know, guys, do you remember Garfield Gets a Life? Do you remember the dance scene? I mean, how could you forget that scene? It was insane, and how everyone yelled at him on the disco floor, the dance floor, that disco's dead. To which he responded, "Since when?" He went on to with Garfield. It's like, boy, you learn some moves, and then suddenly everyone's doing something else, and it's like he couldn't be more right. The way trends change, I mean. So, Garfield Gets a Life. You guys remember that special? John Ellis is chiming in. He says the Ewoks season 1 theme is a bit weird. We are the Ewoks. Yeah. Andrew J. Christensen says, how scary would it be to wake up and suddenly you're a cat? And wow, John Ellis did bring up some good points about John doing pretty okay overall. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, there was an episode where John and Garfield both simultaneously had dream sequences. One where John became the cat and one where Garfield became John. And we focused in on Garfield's dream sequence because in that dream sequence, when he was John, Garfield was then turned into, like John was transformed into Garfield. And it was very strange and bizarre, but it was fun. It was a very fun episode, and there was a lot of enlightening moments, despite the bizarreness. It kind of reinforced the whole idea that John sort of, his hidden wish is to be more like Garfield. Matthew Carter says, the Star Wars Droids theme song was sang by Stuart Copeland of the Police. He looked it up on Wikipedia. Yeah, I remember somebody had told me that, and I was mind blown, man. Totally mind blown. John Ellis says, he did have a terrible dating life, but even that was healed by late 2006 when Liz realized she really loved him. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he meant to say really. It's cool. Yeah, I totally get that, because in the series there were a couple occasions where she's sort of like warming up to the idea of him, and she really starts to care about him because of how much he loves Garfield, which I didn't actually put that part into my episode, the episode I'm working on for Jiggy. Make a note of that, okay? That's a good thing to add, maybe. Garfield, for the love of Garfield, because Liz actually does kind of turn around and start falling for John when she realizes how much he loves Garfield. So that's a good note. Thank you so much for that insight, John. See, this is what I'm talking about. John Ellis, you just bring some fantastic insights sometimes. Some things that don't click in my brain right away. It's like, I should put that in our next video. Man, that was good. All right, Andrew says, poor John, he missed the disco memo somehow. Well, he was raised on a farm and, he was raised on a farm, had a very tight-knit family, long family history, but very tight-knit family on the farm, not very socialite, I'm betting, back there. So, he could have even learned disco dancing from his parents and friends of that community, and then just got out in the world, and Andrew also added that it was a fun episode. Yes, it was. It was a very fun episode. But back on track, it's interesting that we picked up on John being the secret star of Garfield, Jiggy and me, because John originally started out as the main character of the comic strip before Garfield took over. John was created by Jim Davis, as we were talking about earlier, as a mirror image of himself in the comic strip. The original strip was syndicated locally where he was, where he, his local paper. And back then, Odie had the generic name of Spot. And that stuff is available on the Wikipedia article on John. I was looking into John's character. I wanted to see, was the strip really originally about John? Was it not? Because I think Mr. B-Man, in our last Homie Hangout live after show, he mentioned that he heard somewhere that it was all about John at first. John is really the glue holding the Garfield universe together. Even though he's often the butt of the joke, without John, the dynamic of Garfield's universe would greatly be changed. John Ellis adds, it was interesting to me in the 9 Lives special that while a couple of versions of Odie popped up in Garfield's other lives, John only turns up in Life 8. That is interesting. Towards the end of... Now, these aren't the specials, but towards the end of the series, I mean, there's an episode where John's out skydiving and he's like, my life is flashing before my eyes, and I'm not even in it. And, you start to feel bad for John because towards the end of the show, I think they kind of veered more back into just talking about or just showcasing Garfield. Which, he was the star of the show legitimately, but definitely this was John was definitely the secret star. His hidden wish was to be more like Garfield, and the show was definitely more about him than I think we gave it credit for. John Ellis adds, Jim Davis stated in the 20th anniversary book that before Garfield, he tried to strip with a sarcastic gnat. Needless to say, the syndicate didn't buy it. Well, yeah, he had also mentioned in the complete collections of Garfield that I think they're called, it's Garfield Complete Works. Yeah, Complete Works collections. He added that, what was it? That occurred. He had mentioned that, but it was more like, I thought it was that he had it picked up and then it wasn't doing well, and so he actually made a strip where the gnat was squished. I remember that's what he wrote. I could pull it down and read it for you, but I gotta find the page. Andrew says, imagine how different history would be if it was all about a sarcastic gnat. Cade would be making a really strange video. Yeah, Jiggy and I wouldn't really have a whole lot to say about a gnat. I mean, perhaps, but it's a small character and an even smaller idea. Am I right, Jiggy? Yeah, you know it. You know it, Jig. That's a little bit more. It's a little bit more challenging to do a deep dive on a gnat. Matthew Carter! Whoa, bro! Another wall of text. We can't see Jiggy, and I don't think that anybody can hear me underneath this thing. My mouth is completely covered. Okay. This is a lot of good. I'm just gonna say, this is a lot of good recommendations. We're gonna be doing a lot of content on all of this stuff, Matthew. And in fact, some of this stuff we've covered a little bit. Okay. Andrew says, that's a timeline best avoided. Gnats don't eat lasagna. You got that right. And, if they did, it would be really gross. It really would. John Ellis says, I think he said something about how it was so hard to make an insect look appealing. Cats are cute. Yeah. Well, in all fairness, his original design for Garfield was not very cute. It definitely got a whole lot better as we entered the 80s. Yeah, I believe it started in 79. No, it started in 78. Yeah, there's 78, 79. I have the first two volumes, and that goes into, I want to say 82. And his design was already a lot better in 82. And 82 is when he got, his first TV special. So, it says volumes for the popularity of Garfield, which I think we were talking about in the first Homie Hangout we had about Garfield, John. Homies, if you're here live and you're not commenting, get in the comment section. This is a Homie Hangout. This is where we talk about the episode that we had earlier today, and that was Garfield, John's Hidden Wish. I believe I've linked it in the chat, but I'm going to link it again, just in case you guys didn't know. This is the episode we were talking about, that we are talking about tonight. Tonight. Okay, we got quite a few more. Okay, Andrew says, as a cat owner, I definitely agree. Cats are cute, and yeah, Garfield got better with age. Totally. On both things. John Ellis says, the 25th anniversary, 1978 Garfield met 2003 Garfield. I'm trying to figure out exactly what you're referencing here, because I remember that, there's a picture of it out there, I think, where, the 1982 Garfield met the 1988 Garfield from Garfield and Friends. I remember there's a cover of it out there. Matthew Carter says, I like pizza myself. I had Papa John's pizza for supper also. Booyah. Garfield eats pizza in the trailer for his new movie. Yeah, I'm sure he does. No, I actually remember seeing that. John Ellis says, 2003 Garfield, how did I ever see out of those beady little eyes? 1978 Garfield, good question. How do you stand on those scrawny legs? Oh, nice. Kayak says, John originally had his own comic strip for 2 years between Norm the Gnat and Garfield. I don't know if that was mentioned. Yeah, Kayak, I mentioned that right at the beginning. It was like, I think it was at the beginning of the stream. It was just, I was talking about how, yeah, John was originally designed as the mirror image of Jim Davis, and he was the star of the series, but he revamped it to talk about, to focus in on Garfield, because Cat was just, like, cute, and you can make a story about a cat, versus, like, he didn't want to make it just all about him and just, like, a comic strip about people making comic strips. But, you know, it is cool that it's meta and that John is a cartoonist. That is really, really cool. John Ellis says it was a week-long arc in the June 2003 comic strip series. Okay, awesome. 2003 Garfield met 1978 Garfield in that arc. If you guys are interested, I'm sure it's available online somewhere. Andrew Christensen says, John's comment reminds me of that one Chipmunks cartoon where the 60s Chipmunks met the 90s Chipmunks. That was weird but fun. Yeah, I remember. So, I think, technically, yeah, I remember they get into the 90s, but that series actually started, I think, in the 80s. And back then they met Mr. T, too. And I want to do an episode on that if I can. I don't know how I'm going to spin that, but we got to flip that script somehow. And I got to put the Chipmunks meet Mr. T in here. Because if I don't, Jiggy will be very upset. Not to mention I really want to do that. Alright, guys, you know, if you're still here, if you got any value out of this, and you're getting value out of this content, why don't you consider donating? Donate a cookie. Lend a hand.
Donate a cookie, lend hand. GiveACookie.net is where you should spend. Keep a commotion rolling in. On you we depend. Yo, homie, give a cookie.
If you find yourself financially capable, give a cookie and help us keep this show rocking, because this show runs on cookies. GiveACookie.net. And if you can't find it at GiveACookie.net, you'll find all our links over at CartoonCommotion.com. And another quick shout out. John, we shouted you out at the top of the show, but you weren't here. So shout out to John Ellis for once again becoming a supporter of Cartoon Commotion. And that'll lock him in for 2 shout outs for like this show, the next show, and the one following, because we're going to do that where if you donate, we give you a shout out in that month's episodes. We're not going to dwell too much longer on the donations, though. We're going to get back into it. Okay, Andrew said, oh, yeah, my bad. It was the 80s. Now I remember. It's cool, man. Yeah, the Chipmunks, I think their cartoon did go into the 90s, though. So you're not wrong. I'm pretty sure... Was the Chipmunks movie in the 90s? I think it was in the 90s. John Ellis says, I did love the 2012 TMNT episode where they met the 87 Turtles, and this time they got the original voice actors. Yes, that is something that nobody liked about the 87 Turtles meeting the 2003 Turtles. They didn't have the original voice actors, but I think that episode, or that special, is kind of hated on just because, like, well, for that reason mainly. Like, it kind of played up the cheese a little bit, and maybe it shouldn't have, but I think it was a love letter to the Turtles of the 87, and I haven't seen the entirety of 2012 Turtles, so it is very vague in my memory. I will eventually get to it, but there's so many things to rewatch and talk about on Cartoon Commotion. As I said at the start of the show, what we cover here is the 80s and 90s, so we're pretty much not going to be talking about the 2012 Turtles. I'm sorry. Matthew Carter said, the name of the Chipmunks episode with Mr. T is called the C Team. Ah, I remember that. That is perfect. That is absolutely perfect. Andrew says, I know the Chipmunks had a lot of movie parodies in the 90s. Yes. And the one I mentioned was a parody of on the Back to the Future. It was a parody on Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies. Back to the Future is excellent. It's an excellent trilogy, and it had a really interesting '90s cartoon, which I do plan to revisit also. Yeah, so a parody on Back to the Future. Like, I do not remember that one. I remember the Bat Monk episode. I had the VHS tape of that one. And I think there were actually 2 bat-themed episodes in that VHS tape. I think. Okay, so we are running short on John Arbuckle things to talk about, but one thing I think we should mention before we wrap up here is that John Arbuckle cannot cook worth beans, yet he's always making lasagna, and Garfield eats it absolutely no problem. And okay, so usually this is like microwave lasagna, but in the Little Black Book episode of Garfield and Friends, John can be seen preparing and baking and serving a giant, fully cooked lasagna dish for Garfield. It looked homemade. So I'm guessing that John can cook at least lasagna. He can bake a lasagna, no problem. But he can't seem to be able to bake anything else or cook anything else. the whole like substitution for whipped cream being mayonnaise. Oh goodness. Andrew Christensen said, "It's a good thing his grandma helped out for Thanksgiving." Definitely. You know, and I watched that special on Thanksgiving. It was phenomenal. The grandmother of John Arbuckle is probably my favorite character in the show, besides Garfield and John and Odie. The grandma is such an underrated character. Speak up if you love Garfield's grandma, not his cat grandma. Technically his great grandma if we're talking about John as his cat dad. John Ellis says, John is possibly an idiot savant cook. He has mastered one dish. That is truly possible. Matthew Carter, again, making sure that nobody can see Jiggy because of our comments. I am so sorry, Jiggy. No, it's totally fine, guys. You can keep on commenting. Matthew Carter says, if you're talking about the live-action computer-animated chipmunks, no, I'm not talking about the live-action computer-animated chipmunks. That was... We are talking about the Alvin and the Chipmunks. It's like Great Chase movie or something like. It's one I own. Let me just pull up Alvin and the Chipmunks. I think it was called The Chipmunk Adventure. Yes, The Chipmunks Adventure. And it's a 1987 movie. Okay. So it was still within the realm of the 80s. The animation on that was fantastic. It felt very much like a 90s movie. Just because of how far it came in such a short period of time. John Ellis is such a charming character. He truly is. Alright, Matthew, so you had a couple other things. You said there are 4 of them. Yep. The Chipmunks Back to the Future episode was called Back to Our Future. It was part of the series in a cartoon spin-off called The Chipmunks Go to the Movies. Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about. Chipmunks Go to the Movies. We were referencing Batmonk, and that's what that's from. Andrew says, the grandma was a great character indeed. I think more so lately for me personally. Oh, that's interesting. John Ellis says, she reminds me of my own grandmother's. Plus, she was voiced by stage and screen comedy legend Pat Carroll, who also voiced Ursula in The Little Mermaid. Man, she has some good range, because like I can hear it, but that was distinctly different. Very, very iconic in both performances. Andrew says, sorry I inserted the Chipmunks, by the way, but dude, we will talk about the Chipmunks, and yeah, that was a great movie. And like, I know it's not on topic tonight, but like, I do plan to revisit the Chipmunks too. So a lot of the other cartoons you guys are bringing up are all cartoons I'm planning on bringing into the channel and into the brand and on the audio show. Matthew Carter says the Chipmunk Adventure is a great movie. There are many songs in the movie like the Girls and Boys of Rock and Roll and the emotional song My Mother. Yeah, dude, the Girls and Boys of Rock and Roll is such a boppin' beat. The whole, like, when they get into the chorus, when they kind of like challenge each other, that was iconically epic. Andrew says Pat Carroll was great in both roles. She certainly was. Very, very iconic in both performances. Same as the song Girls and Boys of Rock and Roll. Very iconic. It's sort of like these legendary moments that just stick with you. Oh, John says, and a love song to a bunch of Cobras. Don't forget that. Yeah, but you know, they were struggling with original music as far as I could remember. They had their production team had some difficulty getting original tracks in that movie, and that's because like there were these tracks they would place bids on, and the lowest bids got those tracks. Oh no, sorry. The highest bids got those tracks, and they would go around to different films. So, like that, I believe that song was used in an entirely different production that completely unrelated to a bunch of Cobras. But I think it's just the way it was animated, how they were singing to the snakes. It was kind of strange. It was like it didn't make much sense. But hey, you know, if little girl chipmunks can seduce snakes out of biting them so that they can escape and not die, I guess I'd rather them not die. It's a very strange concept, but there you are. Hey, Kayak, if you're gone now, thank you for being here. Andrew, Matthew, John, it's such a pleasure having you guys around. Keep it unreal. I appreciate you all. John adds, animation legend Glenn Kane. I'm terrible at names. Animation legend Glenn Kane storyboarded the Girls and Boys of Rock and Roll. Such fluid animation in that sequence. I know, I was visualizing it as Matthew brought it up. Matthew says, also there are two 90s Chipmunk cartoons, the Alvin and the Chipmunks meet Frankenstein and the Wolfman. Are those the only two that took place in the 90s? Because I actually own those. I wasn't entirely sure if they were within the continuity, or I think they're more like one-off stories. I have to revisit those also separately. John says, thank you for the show. Thank you so much for being here, man. I know I'm like trying to wrap it up, but I'm enjoying the conversation also, so I don't mind you guys being here and chatting. Now, Jiggy wants to get back and watch more cartoons. Well, thank you all for being here, guys. Oh, Matthew says Glenn Kane's name is actually pronounced Glenn Keane. Okay, thank you very much. Pronunciations are not my best quality. Andrew says, one thing I liked in your video was that brief mention of a box of fun and how fun it was. The power of imagination is a great thing. Yeah, I guess we can end it there, talking about John's imagination and being a kid at heart. That's kind of the whole deal. John is a kid at heart. He's our kid at heart in this situation, and him embracing that even in secret was kind of the whole purpose behind the episode. It's kind of the whole reason we dug into this. All right, thank you all for being here. Keep it unreal. We'll see you next time. The next episode we're going to do is on Transformers, and it's going to be in December, and with bonus episodes all the time, year-round. Keep it unreal, Commotion Crew. Talk to you later, homies.